Here are the top stories this hour. No fewer than 20 killed after gas station explosion in Nagorno-Karabakh. 5 killed in jihadist attack in Mali. Soldier killed following rebel attack near Saudi-Yemen border. Welcome to the World News on VOP TV. I'm Kayla Abraham. Now, separatist authorities in Nagorno-Karabakh stated on Tuesday that more than 20 persons have been killed and nearly 300 others injured by an explosion at a gas station. The breakaway region's health department disclosed that 13 bodies have been found and 7 people have died of injuries after the explosion at the gas station outside the regional capital of Lled late on Monday. It noted that 290 people have been hospitalized and scores of them remain in grave condition. The explosion occurred as thousands of Nagorno-Karabakh residents were fleeing the region for Armenia after Azerbaijan's swift military operation last week to fully reclaim the region following a 3-decade separatist rule. Now, Ukraine's special forces have stated that the commander of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, Admiral Viktor Sokolov, and 33 other officers were killed in a Ukrainian missile attack on the fleet headquarters in the Crimean port of Sevastopol last week. Ukraine's claim to have killed one of Russia's most senior Navy officers. This came as Russian authorities stated on Monday that air defense systems had repelled another Ukrainian missile attack on Sevastopol in the Russia-annexed Crimean Peninsula. The Moscow-installed governor of Sevastopol noted in Telegram late on Monday that Russian air defense unit downed a missile near the Belbek military airfield. Earlier, Ukraine's special forces mentioned that Friday's attack on the Black Sea Fleet headquarters in Sevastopol was aimed at a meeting of the Russian Navy's leadership. Russia's defense ministry had yet to respond to requests for comments regarding Ukraine's claims of killing Sokolov. After the attack on Friday, Moscow reported that one person was missing. Now, 5 persons were killed in a shelling attack on the northern Malian city of Timbuktu, updating an earlier toll. The killings come a month and a half into a jihadist blockade of the area. The military blamed what it called terrorists for the shelling. Timbuktu, a UN-designated World Heritage Site, has been under siege in recent weeks by jihadists, leading to acute food shortages. Meanwhile, the Malian military government has announced it will delay a presidential election scheduled for February, which was aimed at returning civilian leaders to power in the conflict-ridden West African nation. Government spokesman Abdoulaye Maiga told reporters on Monday that the 2 rounds of voting initially set for February 4 and 18 will be slightly postponed for technical reasons. He also stated that those reasons include issues linked to the adoption this year of a new constitution and a review of the electoral list. He also revealed a dispute with the French company Idemia, which the government stated is involved in the census process. Maiga added that the new dates for the presidential election will be communicated later. Mali's military leaders committed to hold the election in February, following pressure from the economic community of West African states that led to the regional bloc lifting a set of trade and financial sanctions on Mali in July last year. Now, the local media in South Africa reported several persons said to have died in the aftermath of a storm in the country's West Cape province over the weekend. The deaths include 4 boys who were reportedly electrocuted in a pool of water. The authorities in the province disclosed this morning that they were still looking for missing persons and assessing damage in the province following the storm. The heavy floods caused widespread destruction, including damaging homes, forcing some to move out. Roads, bridges, and other infrastructures were also damaged, and some areas were inaccessible, with many roads still considered unsafe. Cape Town city authorities stated that teams were making steady progress in restoring storm-related power outages in several areas. It, however, added that it is not able to tell when restoration would be complete due to the conditions and the extent of the damage. Bahrain's military command has stated that a drone attack by the Houthi rebel group killed one of its officers and a soldier along the border between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. A statement disclosed that the victims were martyred while performing their sacred national duty to defend the southern borders of the sister kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It added that the attack occurred despite the cessation of military operations between the parties to the war in Yemen. Neither the Arab coalition nor the Houthis have commented on the incident so far. Yemen's civil war began in September 2014 when Houthi rebels captured much of the country, including the capital, Sana'a. A military coalition led by Saudi Arabia entered the war in early 2015 to restore the Yemeni government to power. The conflict has created one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world, with millions risking starvation. Now, according to the National Center for Seismology, an earthquake of magnitude of 4.4 has jolted Pakistan on Tuesday. According to NCS, the earthquake occurred at midnight on Tuesday and at a depth of 10 kilometers. Now, Singaporean army specialists have detonated a 100-kilogram World War II era bomb found at a construction site, causing a thunderous boom in the city-state after authorities had evacuated thousands of residents. More than 4,000 people were evacuated from nearby residences for the controlled detonation on Tuesday, which local media reported was the largest ever exercise involving a World War II relic in Singapore. Police stated that the unexploded aerial bomb was discovered last week, where a condominium was being built in the city's northeastern suburb of Bukit Timah. A mushroom cloud rose in the distance on Tuesday morning as bomb disposal experts carried out the first of a series of explosions. Before the detonation, military officers were seen setting up sandbags around the area where it will be detonated to contain the blast. Soldiers carried the bomb on a net from where it was found into the sandbagged area where charges had been laid. Surrounding streets were empty of cars, and a 200-meter cordon set up around the site kept locals at bay as the blast was triggered. Police had warned residents not to be alarmed by the loud explosion and to avoid the area. Now, the Philippines has stated it had conducted a special operation to remove a 300-meter floating barrier installed by China in a flashpoint area of the contested South China Sea, just 230 kilometers from the Philippine coast. This incident, which prevented Filipino fishers from entering the shoal where the catch can be more abundant, was the latest in a series of rows over the strategic waterway that have seen bilateral ties between the two Asian nations plummet. Videos posted to social media by a Philippine Coast Guard spokesman showed divers cutting the rope and buoy barrier and hauling away its anchor outside the entrance to Scarborough Shoal on Monday, after their Chinese counterparts installed the barrier over the weekend. Authorities stated that the removal went off without a hitch, with the Philippine vessel coming the closest to Scarborough Shoal since Beijing seized control of it from Manila in 2012. China effectively administers the rocky outcroppings which lie within Manila's exclusive economic zone, though the Philippines and Taiwan also claim the shoal. Now, South Korea's president has vowed to retaliate immediately against any potential provocations by North Korea in his Armed Forces Day speech on Tuesday, as thousands of troops prepare to march through the capital in the country's first such military parade in 10 years. The show of force comes as concerns grow that North Korea is seeking Russian help in expanding its nuclear arsenal in return for supplying Moscow with conventional arms exhausted by its war with Ukraine. President Yoon Suk-yeol stated at a ceremony after reviewing soldiers and advanced conventional weapons system at a military airport near Seoul that, based on battle-ready combat capabilities and a solid readiness posture, that the South military will immediately retaliate against any North Korean provocation. Later on Tuesday, about 4,600 South Korean soldiers, accompanied by more than 300 U.S. combat troops, were to parade through the streets of Seoul along with tanks, missiles, and other weapons to display their readiness. South Korea last held such a parade in 2013. Worries about North Korean-Russian military ties fled earlier this month when North Korean leader Kim Jong-un traveled to Russia's far eastern region to meet with President Vladimir Putin and visit key military sites. Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry stated that China, Japan, and South Korea have agreed to hold a summit among their leaders at a convenient time for all three countries on Tuesday. Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbing told a regular news conference that the countries agreed they should push for new progress and make new contributions to regional peace, stability, and prosperity via trilateral cooperation. Wang added that they also agreed to hold a meeting of foreign ministers in the coming months. Furthermore, China says it is willing to play a constructive role in the success of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco after President Xi Jinping's absence at the annual Group of 20 summit in India. Xi, with no official explanation, did not go to the G20 summit in New Delhi this month, with the Chinese Premier Li Qiang attending in his behalf. That prompted the United States to say China was giving up on the G20 and was building an alternative world order. Dialogue between China and the United States has been gradually resuming despite tensions between the two superpowers, especially over Taiwan. Expectations are building that Xi would meet with Biden on the sidelines of APEC after missing a chance for a face-to-face meeting at G20 in India. At the same news conference, Wang stated without naming any country that China opposed wanton expansion of military alliances that squeeze the security space of other countries. Now, the ban on headscarves for French athletes at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games announced by the country's sports minister has sparked an outrage on social media, with many people labeling it Islamophobic while others applauded the move. Speaking during an interview, French Sports Minister Emilie Audier-Castera stated that no member of the French delegation would be allowed to wear the hijab or the headscarf, and expressed her support for the strict secularism. The ban comes amid a series of regulations in France prohibiting any religious garment in public institutions, including government offices, schools, and universities, as part of the country's strict ideology or state-enforced secularism. The sports minister's statement triggered a heated debate on social media, with some users condemning the ban on Islamophobic, while others hailing it for upholding secularism. Now, 16 students and workers have been freed after they were kidnapped by gunmen who attacked their university in northwest Zamfara state last week, Nigeria. Security problems are one of the major challenges facing President Bola Tinubu, who is yet to spell out his plans to end the abduction, an Islamist insurgency in the northeast, gang and separatist violence in the southeast, and farmer and herder clashes in the north-central region. Federal University Gusau disclosed in a statement that the attack had caused tension at the institution and students were worried about their safety. Now, Libya's chief prosecutor disclosed on Monday that he ordered the detention of 8 current and former officials pending his investigation into the collapse of 2 dams earlier this month, a disaster that sent a wall of water several meters high through the center of a coastal city and left thousands of persons dead. The 2 dams outside the city of Derna broke up on September 11 after they were overwhelmed by Storm Daniel, which caused heavy rain across eastern Libya. Officials have stated that the failure of the structures inundated as much as a quarter of the city, destroying entire neighborhoods and sweeping people out to sea. Government officials and aid agencies have given estimated death tolls ranging from more than 4,000 to over 11,000. The bodies of many of the persons killed still are under rubble or in the Mediterranean. Now, Egypt is to hold a presidential election this December, earlier than had been expected. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, a former army chief who has been in power for nearly a decade, has yet to formally announce his candidacy. However, state-aligned media has already published messages of support from pro-government bodies. The election was initially expected to be held in the spring of 2024. Some experts suspect it was moved so voters would go to the polls before a possible switch to a flexible exchange rate, a change that could exacerbate social tensions. The vote will be held between 10 to 12 December. Excluding Sisi, Only 2 candidates have so far declared their intention to run in the coming election. One of them, opposition politician Ahmed Al-Tantawi, has for months accused security forces of harassment. Now, a section of South B residents has taken to the streets to protest the alleged grabbing of a piece of land earmarked for a market. A video shared by local journalists showed some of the irate residents rolling on the ground while others displayed placards to demonstrate their anger. A private developer allegedly took over the land in question to develop a private facility. The protesters expressed their grievances, saying their ward will remain the only one without a market in Nairobi. Nairobi South MCA Waithera Chege, who was among the protesters, has since filed a petition to the county assembly on the matter. She stated the residents might never live to see a market in the ward if the land is grabbed. In the petition, which was signed by more than 400 residents, Waithera noted that the land in the Makuti area is a public land that had been earmarked by the government for the construction of a modern market. Meanwhile, a Kenyan lawmaker from the ruling United Democratic Alliance has suggested extending the presidential term limit from 5 to 7 years. Speaking to protesters at the parliamentary buildings, Samson Chicharage of the United Democratic Alliance, senator from the Rift Valley region, stated that the current 5-year mandate is not enough to run a government. In a statement, Cleophas Malala, Secretary General of the ruling party, distanced the UDA from the ongoing debate on extending presidential terms. Malala stated that the president has sworn to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution, which outlines the presidential term limit. Any changes to the Constitution would require a referendum. Chicharage argues that the Constitution can be amended through a popular vote. The senator has submitted a proposal to the committee tasked with finding a political solution for the hotly contested 2022 elections. He anticipates that government and opposition members will adopt this proposal in future political conversations. Now, Qatari authorities have condemned last Saturday's brutal truck bombing in Somalia's Beledweyne that killed at least 21 people and injured dozens more. In a statement, Qatar's foreign ministry expressed its strong condemnation and denunciation of the truck bombing in the central Somali town of Beledweyne, which resulted in deaths and injuries. The statement also reiterated Qatar's position on rejecting violence and terrorism, regardless of the motives and reasons. Now, in a statement released by Burkina Faso's military junta on Monday, it disclosed the suspension of French news magazine for publishing what is referred to as an untruthful article that reported tension and discontent within the country's armed forces. The magazine's suspension marks the latest escalation in a crackdown on French media since the West African country fell under military rule last year. The statements accuse the publication of seeking to discredit armed forces and of manipulating information to spread chaos in the country, following 2 articles published over the past 4 days. The magazine did not immediately respond to an emailed request for comment. Relations between Burkina Faso and its former colonizer France has soared since frustrations over worsening insecurity linked to a jihadist insurgency spurred 2 military takeovers last year. These tensions have led to the expulsion of diplomatic officials, including the French ambassador to the country, and fueled a backlash against foreign media. The junta has already suspended French-funded broadcasters Radio France Internationale and France 24 for allegedly giving voice to Islamist militants staging an insurgency across the Sahel region south of the Sahara. French television channel La Chaîne Info of private broadcaster was suspended for 3 months in June for airing a report on the insurgency that lacked objectivity. Also, in April, 2 French journalists working for newspapers were expelled from the count. And that's it on the World News and VOP TV. VOP Business Show is coming up next. I'm Kayla Abraham.